Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Reed. Hall will not be joining us for this episode, but standing in for him is we got our guy from the UK, Mr. Scott Hartley of the One Point Safety Show, seat neighbor of Hall. Thank you for joining us tonight, sir. And the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. The title of tonight's episode is Smoke and Ash. It is a really weird time for the draft and for Washington fans in particular, holding the number 2 overall pick, where a lot of people are saying is the big toss-up, because we all know that Caleb is going number 1 now. So the big toss-up is at number 2. So, boys, I have a question for you guys. We're going to ask fan questions throughout this thing. But just to start this off, what would you say is Washington's ideal first 2 picks? It's a question I saw on Google search for a couple of publications that put it out there. I think it's a really good question, Scott. What do you think the first 2 ideal draft picks are?
Yeah, first 2 draft picks for me are ideally quarterback. Everybody knows that's kind of where we're going at 2. And then you got to find that left tackle of the future, whoever it is. You got to do that. Obviously, that's depending on who you take as a quarterback, because if you take Michael Penix, you got to find that right tackle. But no, in all honesty, it's tackle and quarterback.
Tackle and quarterback. Reed, do you have anything different?
No, not really. I think obviously you got to go quarterback at number 2, and obviously it's a toss up right now. Publications are saying Jaden Daniels, but you can go Drake May. You can go either way. One of those 2 guys, I'm completely fine with. But then you got to go, like Scott said, I think you almost have to go left tackle, whether that's trading up or hoping somebody falls to number 36. And I mean maybe another shot you could possibly. There's so many different ways. Those are the 2 biggest needs, but you can also throw corner, possibly an edge rusher if somebody falls, wide receiver. So there's a lot of ways they can go, but I'd say that the most sure bet, the smart thing to do would be left tackle and quarterback.
The ideal first 2 draft picks, if we're being honest, is probably adding firepower. And so I would say it's most likely quarterback, wide receiver. If you're able to get, because this wide receiving class is very top heavy, or not very top. There's a lot of guys, but there's a possibility you could get a kind of superstar talent wide receiver that could possibly fall to you for whatever reason, and that range, or you could go get, and that's like probably your best ideal scenario, to be able to have a wide receiver that's young, growing with your rookie quarterback immediately, and you're adding it to a system where they get the ball out of their hands out to your playmakers. I think that's probably your most ideal bet, because the one thing with Cliff's offense and others is getting the ball in the hands of the quarterback quickly actually takes things away from the offensive line. So it's not like as pressing as it was before, like in say with Scott Turner's offense, where he was still making Carson Wentz do like 7-step drop backs when he's getting destroyed by Detroit. You're not going to be seeing that sort of thing with Cliff. And so I think the 2 ideal ones would be quarterback and wide receiver. But just the way it plays out, that's probably not going to happen. But my next question, boys, is a would you rather. Reed, would you rather have Drake May and Olu Fashanu, or Jaden Daniels and Tyler Guyton?
Ooh, that's a good one. So, I mean, I'm pumped on either one of these quarterbacks. Let's just say that. I like both of them. I love them both. I tend to lean more towards Drake May. Just, it's not a race thing, Kyle. Don't say that. I can't believe you would say that. No,
I didn't say it. Everyone else did.
I know it's so funny. It's so funny when that happens. Not just from what you see, but and I like Olu Fashanu. Do I think he's not as highly regarded as he was? And I think that the tape kind of shows that he has a lot to work on. Tyler Guyton's floor is ceiling. His ceiling is insanely high. Floor is not as high as Olu Fashanu. I think Olu Fashanu can come in. The base that you're going to get is mid-level, just solid starter all the way around, almost like a Charles Leno, Russell Okung type. But Guyton's floor is a lot higher. However, if you want to be safe, I'm gonna go with Drake May and Olu Fashanu strictly because I like the Fashanu more so than Guyton. But I think you would have to trade up to do that. But hey, that's fine with me. We got the ammo for it.
I got you. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I'm 60-40 Jaden Daniels at the moment. No idea why, just watching the film. I think Jaden Daniels gives you that opportunity to start immediately and go straight off. I think irrespective, either of these two quarterbacks are going to be starting no matter what we look at. Fashanu and Drake May, though, sounds a better prospect to me. What we have to look back at is not even a month ago, people were saying, is it Joe Alt or Olu Fashanu who are going to be the first
Thank you,
tackle off the
Scott. You're one of
board?
the only people to say that and not actually acknowledge that reality.
You know what I mean? And now I'm looking back thinking this guy's been a talent for a long, long time. He's been talked up as offensive tackle number one for a long, long, long time. And I don't think Tyler Guyton gives you that. I think he gives you a starting ability. Absolutely. No problem at all with him being a starter for this team. But I just think that Drake May and Fashanu would be a better bet because you've got the ceiling with Drake May. He's younger as well as a younger prospect. He's 21. He's not going to be 24 by the time we get to the season being started. Not that that makes a difference. But what you also have to look at is people are mentioning between these two quarterbacks and they're saying, well, Jaden Daniels with LSU has been exceptional this season and Drake May is a tick a little bit lower. But if you're a tick a little bit lower right now, then where are you going to be in 3 years? Because Jaden Daniels has had this time in college football. He's a 4-year starter. So Drake May doesn't have that under his belt as a starter for that long. So where are you going to be in 3 years' time with Drake May in comparison to where you're going to be in 3 years with Jaden Daniels? I don't know.
And for me, I'll have to switch it up with you guys because obviously you guys went the white route. You took Drake May and Olu. I'm going to go with the brothers on this one. Jaden Daniels and Tyler Guyton. The Oklahoma offense is very similar to what Cliff Kingsbury in the air raid. They like getting the ball out wide, making their tackles and guards be able to pull a lot, get to the outside. So it's a very seamless transition for Tyler Guyton to come over to this sort of offense. I agree with you guys that in the breadth of I think it's more so about Olu than it is about the quarterback. Because with Olu, you're getting the left tackle. And that is the one position that is really hard to find a starter at, particularly in this draft. Whereas with right tackle, you could find a guy like Christian Jones, Blake Fisher, Roger Rosengarten down the line that could help you out, that you wouldn't have to invest heavily in that capacity. But I think just based on what they were accustomed to, how they were used in college and transitioning, I would choose Jaden Daniels and Tyler Guyton and just being a seamless transition. And a lot of people would be happy just to get Wiley out of there.
That is a pretty athletic pairing right there too, because Tyler Guyton, he's somebody who, I mean, I didn't necessarily see it, but a lot of his scouting reports say he can possibly play left tackle because he's so moldable, he's so athletic, he's still so raw. And I mean, let's be real, either one of those scenarios, I think we'd all be pretty pumped with. Like we would all
Absolutely.
jump on the train.
9.78 RAS score as well for Guyton. So he is an athletic freak when you look at it that way. So, I mean, there's not many linemen that are over the 9 when you look at it there. But for Shanu's got the body shape and the size. I mean, what do you prefer, really? What is it that you're going to prefer? I don't know.
Right. And let's not kid ourselves. The last athletic as hell tackle from Oklahoma we took panned out pretty well. I know not to scout the helmet,
absolutely.
different players,
Yeah,
but
and that's what we were saying about Anton Harrison last year. Me and OG talking about Anton possibly coming here. That would be a shoe-in fig just because offensive Oklahoma tackles really do well here in Washington. My next question for you boys, pertaining to not the draft, but just the Washington Commanders. Your prediction for comeback player of the year for Washington this year.
I'll start it, and don't call it a comeback when Emmanuel Forbes goes out there and balls. Because look, he played fantastic all camp last season. He was a talk at camp. It was like every day they were like, Emmanuel Forbes had a pick. Emmanuel Forbes was in position to get 2 picks today. Emmanuel Forbes had 3, and then he started off the season pretty good, and then he ran into that wall that was AJ Brown that just bullied him. AJ Brown, he bullied him, and that's, I mean, it is what it is. It happens to young guys. Corner's a very mental game. You got to get your head right. You got to have a short memory. And then you bring in Dan Quinn and Joe Witt, who are almost perfect for a cornerback like Emmanuel Forbes, who goes out and gets the ball. They turn these guys into ball hawks. That's his game. That's his bread and butter. It's like Kyle talking to dudes. That's just what he does. That's his favorite thing. He's very good at it. He's very good. And so I think Emmanuel Forbes is going to not only have a comeback, but he's going to make a lot of these people say, what happened last year? This guy got bullied? I don't see that. I hope so, at least. But I'm a glass half full kind of guy. So
yeah, that's a really good one. But I'm not like Reed. I'm not a big Penix guy like he is. I don't talk to
Love
them,
Penix.
but I do talk to dudes. For
Yeah,
me,
you
the
do.
comeback player of
A
the
lot of
year,
dudes.
I'll say Derek Forrest. He did get injured last season, but the one thing with Derek Forrest is he's a playmaker. We've seen him be able to come up with lots of turnovers, and adding Dan Quinn and Joe Witten, what they do already defensively, I think Derek Forrest is shoe-in fit for this defense where they're looking at it where he might be able to produce right away and being able to get the turnovers that they would request. And Defoe coming off of injury from last season, everyone almost kind of forgetting about him a little. I'm not gonna say everybody, but a little bit. He's going under the radar a little bit. I think that's somebody that could qualify for comeback player of the year. What about you, Scott?
Yeah, there's only one player, and it's my boy F.A. Obada. Has to be
Mm-hmm.
double leg break, coming back from a double leg break, straight in back into the team, signing when he knew that probably his game was up. He was thinking to himself, "I'm gonna have to go get my agent to go and scout around, see where I'm going." Yeah, he's gonna be more than a bit part player on this team. I think genuinely rotation is good enough, but I think he gets a few sacks. I was looking at NFL UK put his stats out yesterday because it was his birthday, and obviously having a look at that, and he's sacked pretty much every quarterback you can look at. I just need 5 sacks, 6 sacks out of him, and yeah, a guy coming off a double leg break probably could be our comeback player of the year, or I
Yeah.
hope he will be anyway.
And real quick, you interviewed F.A. Obata on
Mhm.
your show, One Point Safety Show, last week, if not 2 weeks ago. What was the one surprising thing from the interview that you took away about F.A.?
That he doesn't like joint practice. And that just I was like, wow, okay. He kind of sees it as a almost like a an extra game almost. There was a lot of animosity there with Mark Andrews. You could see there was a little bit of a when we mentioned it. Oh, Mark Andrews, there was a little bit of a switch there, and I thought, okay, I can see where you're going here. So there's still a bit of something niggling away in the background there with him. But no, he seems good. He seems good. He seems ready to roll. It was really great speaking to him. We give us 25 minutes of his time, which is fantastic, really. But yeah, he's flying a flag for the international player pathway guys and the UK out here. So no, fair play to him. Hope he does really well this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny those joint. It's like that Ravens preseason game was like our Super Bowl last season. We just like
I
Yeah.
know.
stopped
Yeah,
playing
that's
after that.
it's so funny too because I remember when we won. That's literally what the Ravens fans said. They're like, "You guys care? You beat us in preseason." They're like, "We don't care," and we're like, "You guys didn't care so much, and how come your media's talking you up in the
Yeah, I
preseason?"
know.
Like,
We were talking all that
Joe,
we did whatever
Joey
we could to be like, "Yeah, we won. Shut up."
Joey Sly flipping the bird as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
go
was
on,
so
son. Yeah.
funny.
Now, this next question I have for you boys. Derek Forrest, we just brought him up. He actually bought his
Mhm.
dad a truck. So
Saw that.
let's just say your boys were able to get like to that point. What would you be requesting, Scott, is in that gift? You're just to say, hey, dad, I'm going to get you something. What would you like?
I'd just pay my mum and dad's house off, man. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They haven't got much left on it, but it's one of them where I'd say, look, I'll pay your house off. You go and you just that's you. Then you can then both retire. It's good. My parents are working for the next 2 to 3 years just to save pension. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
top the 401k up as you call it. But yeah, it's one of them. So I'd be happy just to say let's buy you a house, let's pay it off, and that's where we're at.
See, with
You always got
my
to look after. Always got to look after your mum. Come on, man.
Yeah, I know. But with my dad, I would screw with my dad because when I was getting my learner's permit, about to get my license and get my first car, my dad said, "All right, we'll help you out, but we're looking around that $3,000 range, and the car has to be having less than 100,000 miles on it. It has to have
Hmm.
regular oil changes on it, no accidents." And it has to have Carfax. And so, like, I would go for hours trying to find a car that fit this criteria, and all of them were horrible, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna buy my dad a crappy car and say, "There you go, Dad. Just like the criteria you wanted back when I was 16. There you go." But now I'd
Yeah.
pull it away. I'd have the truck behind it. But I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that dude's car right now, he's got like a Mercedes Benz convertible. He pulled that out. We took it out the training camp last season for the Commanders, and I was like, "Look at you, man." He's like, "I've always wanted this
Oh,
car." I'm
yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
sure.
I would I would buy my parents. Honestly, I'd probably get them like a giraffe or something cool, something that comes out of nowhere, and they can just keep it in their backyard, piss all their neighbors off, but at the same time, be the
You would
talk of
buy
the
your
town.
dad a giraffe and tell him to keep care of it, like to take care of it from now.
Yeah, yeah,
Your
yeah, yeah.
dad's
Now
in the
look, I'll
backyard
buy
like
this
throwing him
for you.
steak.
Yeah, but you gotta feed it. Yeah, yeah, you gotta. I don't know what they eat. Not
Here,
my
I got
problem.
some
Figure
steak,
it
bitch.
out.
You want some bone?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't think that giraffes eat that though. But then again, I'm not sure. So yeah, just something kind of cool like that. Something that they could, just kind of flex around the neighborhood with. Like, yeah, we still have a shitty car, but guess what? You got a giraffe. What do you have? That'd be pretty cool. I think that you could flex on people with that. Yeah.
That is pretty cool, I will
And
say.
then they say, "Welcome to Biden's America."
Mm.
Welcome.
Yeah. Now the next question
Getting
I
the
have for
boys
you
riled up.
boys, we went to the zoo today with the kids, the Concoction
Speaking
State,
of giraffes, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
the
Did
Concoction
you see
State Zoo.
one?
No, actually, they didn't have giraffes, but it was crazy. I saw my boy TJ Prather. He was down at
Oh,
my
no
bachelor
shit.
party. You remember TJ,
I
right?
remember T. You
Yeah,
know, I know
yeah.
TJ. Yeah.
And so like we were there, and like Cash ran up to somebody because they were feeding goats, and like I see this big dude like hand Cash some,
What
and
was
he
he
looked.
doing? What was he feeding Terry McLaurin? That's crazy.
That's funny. And he turns around, he looks at me, and I was like, TJ. He's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "It's so random," but he was there with his
Yeah,
family.
that's
But
tight. That's cool.
but basically, the reason why I bring this up and ask this is we met up with another family, and her husband was talking about the Commanders and kind of asking like what to expect this season. And honestly, it kind of took me back because I was like, "That's actually a really freaking good question."
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask it to you boys, Scott. What do you expect from this season with the much turnover that we've had with the roster, which is yes exciting to say, but you don't know the unexpected. The new coaching staff obviously is very exciting. We all have full confidence in and with the draft selections. But honestly, what do you expect for this season?
Yeah, for me, it's as a fan, I obviously always expect playoffs. That's the first thing I want. Is it realistic? Probably not, not at all. I honestly want to see a competitive team in every game. Just be competitive. I want to see one blowout as a minimum at at a home game where you're like, hey, we actually have stuck the pedal to the metal for the whole game, and we've absolutely wiped the floor with someone. And I think 6 wins is probably realistic. Being honest, for going from 4 to 6. I think you can probably say, yes, 6 or 7, maybe around 500 at a push, maybe the last wild card spot, that sort of thing. But we've got to be realistic and be patient here as well. Rome isn't built in a day, and this roster can't be overturned and built immediately. I know fans want that. We're all in mock draft season where we're trading back with so many teams, and oh my God, I can get this player and get that player. And that's great. That's fantastic. But it isn't going to be done in a year. This is not like last year's Houston Texans. We have to remember that's what people and fans are thinking, is that we can do that. Houston had a lot of things in place before they got CJ Stroud and traded up again for the edge rusher whose name escapes me. But yeah, I mean, honestly, 6 to 7 wins is pretty much for me. That's a good season as long as we are competitive in every game. We just have to be patient, which I know is very difficult for fans to do right now.
Well, this is a really weird time for fans because fans typically, like ourselves, we like to think something really good is going to happen. When in reality, it's the opposite. Just being here in Washington, right? We're expecting possibly a 10-win season. What best you're gonna get is a 3. Like the Vegas thrift guys. All I could do is a 3. So when you look at this, and it's hard for Washington because with the roster turnover, with the coaching change, it's almost like we're going into this expecting not to be very good, right? It's almost like we're going into it prior to 2012. And that's how I feel about it, where it's almost like we're looking at like, okay, we're getting the piece of the future in the quarterback, but it might take a little bit. We're not expecting fireworks right away. And from what I have learned, is in that process is when something cool can happen that screws us over long term, like RG3, because we go into it thinking it's a long term quarterback move, and then that game 1 against the Saints where they light it up, get 21-0, whatever it was, and you're like, what is happening? That's the sort of thing that could happen here. But what do I expect? I expect for there to be a very difference in competition. I do think that you're going to see a different football team. You're going to see growing pains and maybe quite a few, but don't be surprised if you see fireworks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we're going to make the playoffs or even finish 500, but I think that you should for sure just see a more competitive team, and that's kind of going to be the base from here on out. Under hopefully Dan Quinn and Adam Peters is just they're going to bring in their like this roster is not what it's going to look like in the next 3 years. That's why they brought in all these guys on such short deals. It's just they had to fill out the roster. They have to put a team out there, but they're bringing in guys that they like, guys that they can maybe re-sign, but they're going to build the team through the draft. That's what Adam Peters has said. So it's going to be a process, but I do think that they're kind of going to set the standard for like, all right, this is going to be different than years past. This is going to be a competitive team. We're going to have that dog in us. So hopefully, I mean, at least that's what I hope for. Are they going to win every game? No. And that's okay with me. As long as you accept that, you should be okay.
And honestly, a lot of the fan base should just be happy the fact that we have a quarterback to rally behind.
Yeah.
So one thing everyone's been, that's
if
one
you
thing I
sit
could
there,
say
so-
about this social media platform and about everything that I've gone through in this draft build up, it's how much disdain there was for this organization not selecting a quarterback in years past. And for the first time, this being in a position where you're guaranteed a really, really good one, it seems like it's a very chaotic and toxic kind of subject, which is weird, in my personal opinion. Should be happy about it. Sorry, Scott.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say about competitiveness. If you get beat by the better team on the day, then that's totally fine. As long as you are competitive and you've done everything you can. That's all we want to see as fans. You want to see the players give everything they possibly can. If you're outmuscled because there's better players playing against you, that's totally acceptable because eventually that standard you will reach. It just takes time to get to that standard. But yeah, I think competitiveness is where we need to see this team moving forward.
Yeah, and you're right, Scott, because, as a golfer, I'm sure there's other golfers out there that can almost relate to this. When you play with somebody who's really, really good, you'll find yourself hitting some awesome shots. And then when you go out and play with your buddies who might be worse than you play down to what your buddies are playing. You're not hitting those crucial shots, and you can notice the competitive difference between that and those two situations, to Scott's point there. Now, I want to get asked this fan question, who we're going to be joined here soon, not your average fly guy. His question, Scott, if we draft Jaden Daniels, how would you compare the wide receivers he had at LSU compared to the wide receivers that we have? Neighbors versus Terry, Brian Thomas Jr. versus Jahan. On the flip side, how does May's wide receivers compare to ours? Devontae Walker versus Terry, Landon Stevens versus Jahan. It's an immediate upgrade for May, but with JD, is it?
I'm not so sure it is an immediate upgrade for Jaden Daniels. I think they've got two unbelievable receivers at LSU there in Neighbors and Thomas, who are probably guaranteed to be, they're both top 10 picks. That's definitely in this year's draft for me. I think they're absolutely both top 10 picks. Tez Walker, I'm not sure if he makes the first round, maybe, or the top end of the second round. I think, irrespective, I think Terry's above both of them. Let's be honest here. Terry is better than both of them receivers. Has he got the potential? Have they got the potential to be better than Terry? Probably. Malik in Neighbors, I think so. For Drake May, he's absolutely right. If Drake May comes in, he's got an instant upgrade. For Jaden Daniels, probably not, but it's 50-50 there. He's got a threat with Terry McLaurin. Terry's always a threat. What Terry needs though is a long-term quarterback and someone who he can build that chemistry with and have them throws time and time, year on year and year, and see his career out here with us.
I will say I do think it is a slight upgrade with Jaden Daniels. And the only reason that I say that is this is the pros, and these guys have come in and shown what they can do in the pros. And obviously, there is no doubt that Neighbors and Brian Thomas can play in the National Football League. But people are going to say Jahan's blah, 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 blah. Jahan is a very good wide receiver, drafted in the first round in the Football League, just like Jaden Daniels, two wide receivers are going to be drafted. Terry has produced like a first-round draft pick wide receiver, and so I would say that is a slight upgrade given the fact that those guys are already proven in the superstar ability of what they have shown. These other guys, they haven't really. So I will say it's a slight upgrade for all, but I will say this: Jaden Daniels wouldn't be getting the height of Neighbors and Brian Thomas that he had at LSU that he would have here.
I was just about to say, yeah,
Sorry.
different types of receivers. I mean, obviously Neighbors is what, 6 foot, but Brian Thomas is 6'3", 6'4",
6'4".
One of those guys who goes up and gets the ball. So just different types. But yeah, I mean, they are in the NFL. They've been in the NFL. Terry's had success. Jahan's a former first round pick, but yeah, I mean, it's just different types of receivers, and I think that a lot of these quarterbacks. I know that there's some rumors out there that some quarterbacks prefer throwing to bigger guys for jump ball reasons to go up and get it.
Kind of like you.
With Jaden, yeah. Come on, Kyle, you know that. You know I'm a size king. A lot of Jaden Daniels was just dots like down the field. Like it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to throw him a jump ball. It was like I'm going to hit this guy in stride. So like I think you got to feel good with that. And really, it's just all about chemistry, man. Jaden Daniels could come out there and turn Jahan into a 1,000-yard receiver. And Terry could continue doing what he's doing, and same thing with Drake May. I mean, obviously, the weapons here are better than what Drake May had. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of preference and people to grow with. So I'm excited about it. I think you got to feel good about a wide receiver room, especially if they get a number 3.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Now, this next question was submitted by the Colonel yesterday, who we went and saw Oh, I forgot it. I forgot it. I forgot it. It's upstairs. I wanted to bring it down here.
What
Ma-
was it?
No, he gave us something, and Scott would know what it is if I show it to you. It sounds really weird. I don't want to go any further. But his question is, Scott, do any of you think we need to draft a tight end in this thin tight end class? After all, we have Zach Ertz, John Bates, Cole Turner, and Amani Rogers returning from injury. Don't we have greater need at corner and offensive line? Or do you think that tight ends are crucial to Cliff Kingsbury's offense and that we'll draft a tight end?
Yeah, I think we do need to draft a tight end. I just think that unfortunately the tight end room isn't reliable, either through injury or through lack of development. Now you could take that back and say it's down to coaching, and it might be the case that that is down to coaching, that they've never had the correct coaching. Because if you look at someone like John Bates gone from being in his rookie season the best blocking tight end in the entire NFL to being an average, blocker, and sort of he's got strange hands. Sometimes he can drop a lot of balls as well, which isn't good. And then Cole Turner went missing towards the back end of the season, which just disappointed me massively, especially in a dead rubber game. Last game of the season, he still wasn't on the field. So that tells me something that whether he's injured, I don't know, but it tells me something that it just wasn't quite right. And I think that is down to coaching. I think this group could be coached better and could work out. Marnie Rogers, we never saw through injury, so you don't really know what you're getting with him either. And Zach Ertz, again, although older and has that experienced head, he is injury prone. We've seen that. So I think someone like Jatavion Sanders, Cade Stover later on in the draft could be a really good fit for this team.
Yeah,
So
I
I
agree.
do think we do. I do think we do need a tight end. But Colonel is right. There's more pressing needs at corner and offensive tackle, which would be the first couple of picks for me in the draft.
Yeah, so this is a really tricky question. Do I think that we need to invest heavily in the tight end position, like in the top 100? I don't necessarily agree with that, because the way I look at it is I look at it like a conveyor belt. And like imagine that Zach Ertz and John Bates are at the front part of that conveyor belt, and then you have Cole Turner, Amani Rogers, and then a possible rookie, right? Well, through the years, you're going to want to create that kind of tight end farm. And so if you imagine that maybe Zach Ertz is uh, correct, but it has it needs slight adjustments based on him being older, right? You need a younger Zach Ertz, but you don't have that. But then the other things are faulty in their eyes in the sense that that's not the type of tight end that they want. Well, you need to be able to go and get a guy in this draft that you can put at the back end of that conveyor belt line so that when those years come up, then when you start to build that farm, you have those tight ends selected for you. So my big question is, do you want to kick the can down the road with the conveyor belt, or do you want to start that in this draft with somebody like Dallin Hawker, or possibly Cade Stover along those lines to be able to get the mold of their tight end in here, but can also supplement other areas of need? Because like to your point, they have a lot of tight ends on the roster. Could they be the guys they really like? We don't know, but I don't see it as an investment of the top 3 rounds to be able to do it in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Obviously, they do. I mean, they haven't gotten much production out of this tight end room that they currently have. I mean, you do like a lot of the guys and what they can do, but they really haven't shown much. So if they feel that a tight end in round three or something is the best player available and they can see that they can use them, yeah, I'd say go ahead. Especially like you talked about. I mean, we have John Bates who's better at blocking at this stage in his career. You got Zach Ertz who's he's reliable, I would imagine, but he doesn't really scare you athletically. Cole Turner's an athletic specimen, but there's got to be a reason he hasn't really got on the field much for the last 2 years. So if they see somebody out there that they can take, yes. But I do think that there are some more pressing needs. But then again, we need weapons and we need firepower, and tight end is considered a quarterback's best friend, a young quarterback's best friend. So I say, hey, you want like somebody out there, go out there
I
and get
just
them.
I just think going back to that question with Colonel, I think you for a tight end, you've got to get a tight end in here who will not be able to show you what type of play we're running as well. We've never had that tight end since probably Jordan Reed, where you can look and go, right, okay, is he a good enough blocker?
Right.
Is he, or are we going to? Because every time Cole Turner's on the field, it's a throw. Every time John Bates is on the field, it's a block, and there's nothing in between.
I would
So
I would argue Vernon Davis Was one of
True,
those
very
guys
true.
that
Okay.
didn't tip the hand. He obviously was older in age, but still was doing incredible things here. Now we are joined by our next guest. You know him on Twitter as Not Your Average Fly Guy. How you doing, brother? Thank you for joining us. It was
Hey, how's it
beautiful.
going, man?
Doing well,
What's
man.
up,
Amen, brother.
dude?
It's
Thank you
another
for having me
beautiful.
on, guys.
Of course, man.
Thank you for making time for us today.
So
That's
what we're gonna do, Fly Guy? Well, we're gonna do a roundtable discussion to wrap up this episode. Where I have questions prepared for all four of us to answer, but also we have fan questions submitted. I already answered yours earlier to three guys, so I won't force you to do that. As insane as that is, but this next question I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna go to you, Fly Guy, first. This is from the Colonel. He says this is a pretty strong offensive tackle class. Are we in love with someone enough to move back up into the first round, or should we stick at 36 and keep our picks? According to most mock drafts I've been following, tackles like Tyler Guyton, J.C. Latham, Talise Fuaga, and Jordan Morgan will all potentially still be available at 36. What are your thoughts?
Wow. That's obviously a very important subject and topic because we obviously need a left tackle like the desert needs rain, right?
Yeah.
If we stay at 36, I think it's going to be slim pickings. I really honestly believe that if we stay at 36, we won't have a tackle that can start this year. We definitely, if we really want to get a tackle that would have any shot of starting this year, in my full opinion, we would definitely need to trade back up. I really like that guy from Oklahoma. Even though he's only played 7 or 8 games, that's what I'm hoping kind of makes him slip a little bit, right?
Mm.
Because he doesn't have all of that experience, doesn't have 20 or 30 games in the SEC, right? Um, that would, I think he's got the most potential, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's like untapped potential, right? You can see from 7 or 8 games of explosiveness, you can see what he could really, become. And that's for where we could get to. I would hope we could get him, right? Not to mention there's also a lot less tread on the tires too. So you don't have someone that's kind of gone head to
Fair.
head or, played 30, 40 games too, right? In the trenches. So, having less wear on the tread or less tread on the tires, I think would be beneficial too.
I like that.
Um,
I like that argument. What do you think, Reed?
I think yeah, it really depends on which offensive tackle's there. Like, because at 36, first of all, there's going to be a run on him in the first round. I think that we know that. A lot of these guys are considered more right tackles
Yeah.
than left tackles, and then you got some tweeners and some guys that have a lot of potential. Like you look at 36, maybe let's say Jordan Morgan falls, he's there. He's somebody who could go in and he could play. He definitely you can play in the league. Will there be some growing pains for sure? Same with Sua Mataya. So it is tough if you want to get that guy who can come in start day one and not. There's going to be growing pains with everybody, but if you want to your best bet, I think you have to trade back up into round number one. But at 36, I do think you can get some of these guys. And look, it happens every year. Every year, there's guys picked that come in and can start immediately that are not picked in round one. So if you can bank on that, that's kind of why we pay Adam Peters some of these big bucks. That's why he's bringing in all these good scouts. Good scouts. Hopefully, you
right.
find somebody that can go in there and can start, and you don't have to spend a first round pick or trade some of your assets to go get them. But it's a lot easier said than done. That's a perfect world scenario. And obviously, except other than Kyle, we don't live in a perfect world. Everything goes Kyle's way. Kyle's perfect. So
Yeah, right. J.C. Latham, obviously Talise Fuaga. I would have Talise Fuaga above all those other guys. I think
yeah,
if you're looking for an identity change in your offensive line, like Talise Fuaga is somebody that's going to come in and be able to do that for you. He comes in and just wants to rip people's heads off, and that's what we kind of want as an image here. J.C. Latham is going to be your prototypical, very good pass blocker coming from Alabama, fundamentally, structurally very, very sound, and you don't have to worry about all that much. So you'd feel really good with those two selections there. The other guys, you could have arguments about kicking them inside or not to guard or whatever have you. But I think that where I am at currently, I'm not sure if this team is willing to give up the picks that they traded for in order to move up for a left tackle. I think they're more in just ready to put more bullets in the chamber. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I kind of understand that completely where you're coming from, but for me, I agree with the other two that I think we are going to have to probably go back into the first round. I'm not staying up till 6 a.m. watching the draft. If we're not, I'm going to be pretty annoyed if we're not at the back end of the first round again. I think if you can
Brutal.
get into the 20s, then you can get into the 20s. I think you're probably looking that there's not much difference between, say, 25 down to 36. It's not actually going to cost you a whole heck of a lot to trade back up. But Yeah, I agree with you. So most of Reed was right. Most of the tackles out here are seen as right tackles or people who go in between. Graham Barton, I mean, I know he's been seen as a guard, but
Center.
is he a center or stroke guard, is he?
Ryan Fowler early on in the draft process was telling me the scouts were looking at him as primarily a center, but he can play
Oh,
guard.
okay.
He's been seen
Hmm.
as all three. Yeah, apparently,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
primarily
And
center.
I know he's gone all five spots on the offensive line, so I didn't know if he would be a shout even. But I think there will be someone there at 36, but whether they're an immediate day one star, it's going to be very difficult, I think.
I
And
agree.
and we've still got free agency, got post draft as well. You don't know what's going to happen. But if someone falls in this draft, and I think it'll be draft night that we'll find this out. It won't be anytime soon. It won't be anything done before the picks are in, shall we say.
Yeah, and don't be that guy who leaves
Uh,
the party early just for them to trade back into the first round, you know?
That was
Yeah.
yeah, that was so many people with the Montez Sweat trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, wait, hold on, who traded up? Oh my god.
I'm pretty sure that was me. Now, the next question,
Probably.
Fly Guy,
Sounds like
going to
something you
you.
would do.
This one's from Deluxe and Discord. I don't remember who made this point, or I will credit them. Scouts typically lean towards ceilings and potential when ranking prospects. Coaches and executives tend to lean towards what the player can do now. Here's the question. Adam Peters is an executive that rose the ranks through scouting. Does he make the decision based on his history as a scout or his present as an executive?
that's a that's a good question. Um, I would kind of think he has to use both, right? Like he's got to use part of his abilities to evaluate players, right, as a scout, but then he's also got to use what he knows about the league and the front office. I don't think in that situation you can just go off of one. I think, as you were saying, Reed, the perfect world, he's going to use both, and he's going to use them to the best of his ability, and that's how we're going to end up coming up with some, especially later in the draft. I'm so excited to see the hidden gems that we come up with, right? Especially if Adam Peters is this evaluator stud that everybody is led to believe. Um, it's especially think about the undrafted free agents. Like there's so many ways I think that he can find us talent that we've been missing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a miracle. It's going to be a godsend. In my opinion, it's something that we've been missing since Bobby Beathard. I don't think we've had somebody that really knew how to find pure overall talent in a very, very, very long time. What's incredibly embarrassing is looking at 2020. Our entire draft class is gone from 4 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's pathetic. You can't expect to be a winning, dominating organization year in and year out and have an entire draft class gone in 4 years.
Right.
I mean that gets you fired, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, as it should. That should
no,
get anybody
no,
fired.
right? I mean, no offense to Ron, and he was a great guy, and he was a culture guy, and whatever. He turned everything around, but Adam Peters is like, wow. I can see why everybody's so excited. Everybody's so high on him, and this is going to be fun, boys. This
Yes,
is
it
going to
is.
be fun.
This is a great question by Arch, and I'll say this: this is why the beauty of what they have collected as front office personnel and coaches is so beneficial to Adam Peters. Is yeah, Adam Peters is the executive. He is also the scout, so he kind of has a differential in how he's going to be looking at these prospects. But this is where the importance of weighing on the coaching staff is to say who fits you, who do you like, and who can you coach up and work with. Because yeah, Adam Peters can see something and really like this guy, but if he hands him to the coaching staff says, I don't gel with him. I don't know how I'm going to get him to what you want him to do because that's not what I'm geared towards.
Great point.
So this is where Adam Peters lays on the coaching staff and kind of it's almost like a comfortable spot, right? Where you're sitting saying, I know what I like, but ultimately I'm going to allow the coaching staff to pick who it is because that's how I view it is going to meet with who they really like, and that's where the pick's going to match. What about you, Scott?
Yeah, to your point, Kyle, you got to think about as well. What was Josh Harris's first signing in this entire organization? Eugene Shen. We're an analytical football here. So now you have Adam Peters who can cook and find things in the later rounds because he's this hidden gem guy who apparently has been drafting for the 49ers for years from the third round onwards, which is fantastic when you look at the players that they've got like George Kittle in the fifth, these sort of players who have come out of nowhere to have superstardom careers. And then you think to yourself, well, okay, I am an executive. I do understand that. But what I really like with Adam Peters is he's been to the East West Shrine Bowl. He's been to the,
Right.
the other bowl games. He's watched the Reese's Bowl, that sort of stuff going on. He's been present. He has that network around the NFL as well as the executive side of it. This is a guy who's not, he's not unknown, and the adults are in the room now. For me, this is exactly what we need. Adults are in the room, and we're looking at what we have here. I mean, honestly, could you see anybody? I mean, let's just be honest here. If we didn't get Dan Quinn, and I know it's not all Dan Quinn, and we got Ben Johnson, as the media had said, would we have assembled this coaching staff?
No.
I don't believe that at all. Nowhere near. And you have how many head coaches?
Hey.
3, is it? Former head coaches on this team. And now we look at it and go, well, okay, we're finally going to get players who are going to be coached to set especially well. And then the other thing that proves to me that Adam Peters is the right guy for this, the draft board is going to be very good, is look at what was probably our worst room last season. It was linebacker. Look at linebacker now. It's probably our strength. Yep. Or if not, not the best bit, but maybe the second best, room that we have in this team. So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Mike, do you have anything to add, or I got the next question for you?
Yeah.
My bad. I meant Reed. Sorry, Fly Guy.
I don't. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I don't know.
So,
no,
Fly
go
Guy,
ahead.
go. My bad.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say really quickly, seeing that this is Sunday, this is the Lord's Day, right? Maybe we can thank God for unanswered prayers, and we didn't get Ben Johnson,
With
right?
Ben, I know. Dude, that's
right?
exactly what I was thinking. I was like, we were all so sold on it. We're all like,
Yep.
When Ben comes here, he's gonna. And then you look at, and I remember specifically being like, I don't want Dan Quinn. I don't want to retread. I don't want to do this. And then all of a sudden he starts putting his staff together, and we're like, actually, you know what? I mean,
Yahtzee!
It was definitely the right. Yeah.
What did I say about Dan Quinn? I think my quote about Dan Quinn was, I don't really love Dan Quinn, but if he can convince Michael Parsons to come here, then let's kick the tires and rock.
Yeah.
And you never know what that could happen. But
it's so real fast. It's so funny too, though, because like when we're talking about Ben Johnson, we're all already building the staffs, and I remember deep diving. I was like, who is he coached with? Who is he coached with? Because who's going to come over here as OC? And it was like so many guys that it was just like, I guess maybe we'll take a swing at him. Who's gonna? It's funny the way that works.
Now, Reed, this question by Deluxe was submitted, and it's just for us too, I guess. If you guys have a comment or something to add here, but it's kind of narcissistic on my behalf to ask that. But his question, Reed, is if you were to suggest a rewatch of an episode from your archives, which would it be?
Oh, I know this.
There's one episode with I think it was from not this past summer, but the summer before with St. Logie's with Logan Paulson. That was super funny where we were going in with Logan for like 30 minutes and just, it was just joke after joke. Obviously, it was me doing the jokes. No big deal. But no, where you just see Logan. Logan was the bro there. Logan wasn't an analyst. Logan was just the boy, and he was just joking around with us and stuff. It was really funny.
There's one single episode you need to watch, and that is the draft night from 2 years ago.
Oh,
when we got to interview Kendall Fuller, Logan Thomas, when we got to interview John Allen, but also the interview with Fred Smoot. I mean, honestly, it's an all-timer.
It's
the only time that we've ever interviewed Fred, and unfortunately we haven't been able to get him back, but dude, that was such an amazing,
he was so funny.
Interview.
Yeah.
And I would tell you that everyone go and check that out. Like, we had audio issues because that's my fault. We had audio issues for it, but like I've never used a mixer before, and so like we literally got there late. We're setting up all the audio equipment, and honestly, it was a miracle that we even got everything up and running. But because as soon as we got in there, John Allen was already interviewing with people. So like we had to like set everything up, knowing that John Allen was working his way our table like minute by minute.
Oh man!
And so it was us actually being able to interview John was a miracle in itself. So I know a lot of people had comments about the audio, but dude, it was just I was working with what I could, and obviously it's a growing process for everybody. But I would suggest the draft night from 2 years ago. That was a dream come true. When Reed and I first started this, what did the thing we say? We were like, the dream would be to interview current players in person.
Well, right. The first thing that you said was, don't mess this up. You're fat and you're ugly, and I don't want you on camera, but every once in a while I will allow it. And I said, oh, yes sir, we'll do that. So that's pretty cool too.
It's a true story
that you let me on camera.
I got one episode that I nearly crashed my car, which was just so funny. And it wasn't the episode as the whole, it was the joke. And you probably know where I'm going with this. It was when Burroughs put in a question saying, if you could go back to back to any time in the
Oh yeah,
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 No, no.
yeah.
His question was, if you could, would you rather go
That's it.
back in time to see your
That's right, yeah.
ancestors, or would you rather go in the future and see your
And
future
and
grandkids?
Hall was
Paul
like,
was all
obviously
time.
I'm gonna go to the future.
If I go to my past, my ancestors not gonna be too kind
Yeah,
to
he
me.
said
Yeah.
that's what he said.
He's like, they were not too kind
The
to
past was not too good for my people. Yeah, I was screaming. I nearly
That was
crashed the
funny.
car. It was
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
funny.
We've
That was
had
good.
some, we've had some good laughs on this show. I will not lie to you.
100%.
Now, this
was
next
funny.
question from Tim Towner, which is the last of our fan questions, boys. But Fly Guy, he asks, I see discussions about tight ends and wide receivers, etc. At what point/pick in the draft will we start selecting best player available and not point, but whatever? Would think taking a quarterback at a number 2 would be a position of need. But after that best player available, others say we need to move up to get a top offensive tackle. But that begs the question, at what cost? Thank you, Tim. It's my question.
So I'm trying to understand the question.
At
So
what
he's
point
asking
do you want to start saying you pick best player available? So, like, because his point is, if you have to trade up to get an offensive tackle, you're not essentially you're doing that based off of need, not being best
Yep.
player available, right?
Yep. Well, now this is actually where Adam Peters is really going to come in handy, right? To him, looking at the whole entire draft board could be to to us looking at a smorgasbord of food, right?
Right.
To him, he's going to see talent littered all throughout every single round, right? From over the years, paying attention to the draft in the NFL, and you always hear about how coaches have their boards and how GMs have their boards and what they're looking at. I could just imagine what the depth and what Adam Peters' board would look like. So, heck, after that, I got to guess he's they've got to have some kind of path that they're really wanting to focus on. Once they get through those first maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 picks, that's I think is when it's really, really gonna come down to best player available. Unless of course you see players falling, right? And like I think I asked that one question about if Latu from UCLA falls,
Right.
right? If somehow someone that is so good that was projected to be the absolute number 1 top edge rusher falls to you and you're just like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like kind of like the year when John Allen fell, right? He
Right.
wasn't
Right.
expected to fall, right? But yet he was there. They
Same with
took
Brian
him. So
Arakpo and stuff. Yeah.
right. So I'm sure that they envisioned their board falling a different way. So it could really be in any round, right? I don't think there's a set point. I just think the main thing is how the board falls, and especially if a certain position gets a run, right? Or maybe 2 positions gets a run, and thus that pushes other players
Right.
down. And now all of a sudden you're just like Yahtzee. Oh my gosh! Like seriously, like we're going to be able to get Latu or whoever. I mean, not that we really could get him, but so yeah, that.
Yeah, you got it. You killed it, man. Don't worry, Fly Guy. Now, I understand what you're saying, Tim, and I agree with you. I think best player available starts at 2, and if you were being honest and non-political about it, it'd be Joe Alt at 2, but it's not. So we're moving past that.
Oh man!
But it is best player available. Like Fly Guy's question about Latu, you take Latu in that position, and that is why the makeup and the building of the foundation of this team is so important and awesome to see, because you can go best player available. Like we talked about earlier, very slightly, you still have free agency open. So if you don't get a starting left tackle in the second round, but you got Leitu Latu or you got a stud wide receiver there, you can still build up your team and still add somebody. And we've already heard Adam Peters say he's already laid the groundwork for this by saying, I'm cool with Trent Scott and Cornelius Lucas. I'm fine with that, And that's where I kind of understand by saying best player available starts immediately. And I know that we need a quarterback, and I guess that, but politically they're going to say this was the best player available. But if we're being honest, it's Joe Walt. What do you think, Reed?
Who?
Yeah, I agree. Reed, you go. Sorry, mate.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that ideally you'd want to pick best player available every pick, but is the roster there? I don't know, but we're definitely in a lot better position than we thought we were going to be in terms of depth and the way that the team is being built. Yes, we have holes, we need starters, but I think really outside of round 1 and maybe early portions of round 2, which luckily we have 2 picks there, you're not necessarily banking on getting starters. You're banking on getting people that can come in and maybe become something, or maybe you do know somebody can start, or maybe, you just want to see what this guy has, see what he can do in a few years. So it's tough to really say because every year we think that we know what we're doing. And that, look, I know that was Ron and stuff, but they go a completely different way. With like this, remember, like what we all thought it was a shoe-in. We were going to take Jaquan Brisker, was that the dude who went to Chicago, the safety, and we ended up
Yeah.
taking a defensive tackle, which we were like, okay. So it's just it's interesting, but that's
Jarrett-
just the way the draft is. We have no idea what they have in mind right now, and we have no idea what Adam Peters is thinking. Adam Peters, even if you look back at San Francisco drafts, Adam Peters was generally considered the guy to be in control on what was it, rounds 3 through 7 or
yeah.
something. So it's like we don't
Jesus.
know if he's best player available guy. We don't know if he's a team building guy. We just know that the guy can draft players. So whatever it is, let's just
Did Reed ever tell you about the dream he had about Adam Peters?
Yeah.
You know that scene from Titanic when Jack is drawing Rose,
yeah.
Yeah. Reed likes to
Except
draw.
for yeah, he didn't.
So this last
yeah.
question, boys, to wrap this up, or Scott, did you have something?
No, I'm just saying. I would say the second pick of the that we have in the second
Right.
round, if we're staying pat, will be where we'd start. Jeremiah Wusu-Koromora springs to mind. Christian Gonzalez springs to mind.
Yeah.
We had no idea where this last regime was going, but you pick who you pick, and that's it. I'm just grateful that we seem to have a coherent board and everybody sitting on the same page.
I got you, boys. Now let's wrap this episode up by asking some fun questions. So first one, Fly Guy. If you could add one player from a Washington Super Bowl team, a player, that position that they're coming from, you would have to take the best player currently off the team from that same position. What's one player you'd take away?
Wow, that's easy. That's so easy. Daryl Green, number 20, cornerback.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Forbes. You're going to sit down and you're going to get coached by Daryl Green, and you're going to watch a Hall of Famer.
That is such a great answer. Good job, Fly Guy. What do you got, Reed?
Yeah, this is tough because when you think of the Hogs,
Yeah, that's
obviously
where I'm going.
they're fantastic, but like obviously Lachey's better than any left tackle that we have right now currently, right? I mean, but there was a lot of guys that they moved around a lot. But give me Lachey. Let me plug him in there at left tackle, and and then we'll just ride because it's got to be better than what we have. And dude did win Super Bowls, so
I'm with you.
Lachey's got to be better than. Go ahead, Brick.
I
put
would
him
add,
in there if you put him in there at his age right now, I think he would probably be better than
I would add either Dexter Manley or Charles Mann,
Oh.
and I would take away.
because you just love men so much, Kyle.
It's true.
Manly and men.
What
Come
about
on,
you,
dude.
Scott?
Joe Jacoby. Give me Joe Jacoby.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so you'd have to take away Sam Cosme. All right, I can.
It's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I got
No
you.
problem.
I got you.
Joe Jacoby is, or hey, just say, you know what? Actually, Sam Cosme is a left guard. I don't know what you're thinking, person who made
Yeah,
this question.
correct.
So Cosme's just going to play left guard. It'll be good.
You can move Cosme to the
No,
left.
it's
I'm
not
happy
the
with
way
that.
that's not the way.
Kyle,
the
that's the way that this
it's not
is
the way
my
the question's
fantasy.
proposed.
This is the way that it works.
Now the next question I have for you, Fly Guy. Would you rather
Yes, sir.
have Jordan Morgan and Xavier Leggett, or Adonai Mitchell and Patrick Paul?
Ooh, Jordan Morgan and the receiver Leggett, too legit to quit, right? Or who else?
And then what I'd have is Adonai Mitchell from Texas and Patrick
Right.
Paul, left tackle from Houston.
Now, okay, here's an honest question. Is Jordan supposed to be a guard or a tackle?
That's
Because lately
fair.
I've been seeing stuff about guard, not so much tackle.
Yeah, it depends. I think the people think that he has the athleticism to play left tackle, and he's experienced at left tackle. Ideally, I think he would switch to guard, especially with the shorter arms. But I do think that people are like he can play left tackle, so
Right.
one
right.
of those, man. Yeah.
So is there any way that we can like tweak it and do Leggett and Paul? But in that case, I think I would have to go the other way because if we're not even sure if Homie's going to be a left tackle, then I got to go the other way and give me the little bit of work with Patrick Paul and Adonai, right?
See, this is the whole part of the mental critical thinking process here about trading up for one of those tackles about Jordan Morgan. That goes into the point about it all. If the guy isn't going to be able to play left tackle for you, is it worth it? Correct. So Scott,
Right.
what's your answer?
Yeah, I would go. I would actually go with the first one. I think Leggett gives you a bit more option over a Donnie Mitchell. I think better overall wide receiver for me. I'm looking at it from what you can get out of it as a receiver, as a weapon for the new QB. I would probably say Jordan Morgan is going to be around at 36 anyway, just about maybe. Maybe you'd have to trade into the first round to get him. I would trot him out at left tackle and try and see where we are. It might be like a Brandon Scherf where we realize in training camp, oh, actually, it's a guard. But no,
Hard.
it's one of them. I would go that route because I don't think Patrick Paul's actually gonna be that good of a starter. I'll be honest with you. I really don't think he's gonna be all that.
His film doesn't give you the best and most awesome confidence, but he is a multi-year starter captain at Houston, and he's
Patrick Paul's played well, dude.
Yeah,
He's
6'7". But no, I'm saying just
given
based off,
stuff.
like for
Yeah,
me,
just based off his traits and shit.
like
yeah,
like
no.
I
Yeah, I know what
like
you mean.
the violent, aggressive,
Yeah,
man.
me
Like,
too.
Mhm.
I kind of like what Reed likes on Saturday nights. He likes to get manhandled a little bit, and that's what I like to see on
Right,
film.
right.
And
Yeah,
so
no, I feel that.
with Patrick Paul, you don't really get that. But the way that this question's framed, like Adonai Mitchell is up here. He's more so in the 20s. Xavier
Yeah.
Leggett more so in the 40s. Whereas you're looking at Patrick Paul more so in the 60s, where Jordan Morgan is more so in the 30s. So that's why I kind of like balanced it out a little
Right.
bit. But in my personal opinion, I think Xavier Leggett is a fantastic wide receiver, and I would absolutely love him. But I
Yeah.
do think that the size of Patrick Paul and Adonai Mitchell, who has the really big ceiling that you would need help with crafting and route running, but I think he offers you that number one ability. So if I had to go, I'd go Patrick Paul, Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah, then look, I like obviously all those scenarios because look, like I talk about all the time. I'm so goldfish brained, and I'm so like whoever they go with, I'm gonna pump myself up and be like, this is the guy. This is gonna be the best left tackle in the NFL for the next over. But I like Adonai Mitchell a lot. Like I obviously there's like you talked about Kyle where he's projected to go. I mean, if you can get him at 36 and get a Patrick Paul, and they think Patrick Paul's the guy, I love that. I love Adonai Mitchell. He was always listed at 6'4", but I think he measured in more at 6'2", but he's got that 4'3" speed. I know Xavier Leggett does as well. Donnie Mitchell's more of he can. I think him as a deep threat and being a little bit more shifty is somebody that.
Right.
Look, I like Leggett as well, but I think that there's a reason that Mitchell's considered a better prospect right now. Leggett is fantastic. Like I said, I don't think you can really go wrong with either one of these directions. But give me the Adonai Mitchell one. I think I'm really high on him. I think that him and Patrick Paul, I think that'd be fantastic. You had Adonai Mitchell into this offense, something that we don't necessarily have
Right.
with that size and that just elite deep speed, and you can put Jahan Slotson inside maybe a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at you!
John
Don't stop the wink, dude. Just don't do
Dotson.
that.
I didn't do that, Kyle. I had something in my eye. Stop telling me what to do.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Thank you to everybody who's contributed. Scott, for taking some time out at 10 o'clock at night to be able to sit down for an hour with us, man. You're a frickin' champion as always. Fly Guy, huge supporter of us, always submitting our questions and supporting us, sir. I can't thank you enough. Before you get out of here, Fly Guy, would you like to plug your social media handle, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet, sir, would like to?
It's really simple. On Twitter or X, I guess, at just your average fly guy. And I apologize, man. I thought we were supposed to be on at 5:30, so from the bottom of my heart, I apologize.
No,
did not
that's
mean to be
what I
late.
told you. I said I didn't want to force this on you and make it all stressful for you for a whole hour, Fly Guy. I want to.
Oh, I would have
time-
rather had that.
I don't want to make you all stressed out. I know how everybody gets about this. I mean, even Scott asking me what the parameters were today too. So Scott, I can't
Always.
thank you, brother. If you'd like to plug your social media handle and your show, brother, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed it yet.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks, Kyle. And it's great to be on with all three of you again. We are at the 1 Point Safety Show. It's 1 Point Safety 4 on X or Twitter. And we record every Thursday live on YouTube at 3 p.m. Eastern or 8 p.m. in the UK.
Yeah,
I
you guys are
can't
crushing it,
Oi,
Scott. You guys,
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that,
killing it,
honestly.
dude.
What
Yeah.
I tell you, Scott, just keep going, right? Keep going.
You've got to, yeah, you've got to. Learn from the best, don't you? That's what
It's
I mean.
funny. Sometimes Scott keeps getting blurred out because of your
I do,
background.
yeah,
and it's
yeah, I
like
don't know what the hell's
it's like
going on.
you're the
In
man
the Twilight Zone.
no, it's like you're the man in a Japanese porno. You're just getting blurred out.
I'm about to quantum leap to
Oh,
you.
that's a good joke. Porno. Oh, that's funny.
What did I say to you and Andy back then, Scott? It's just
Yeah, you
don't
did.
don't look at the numbers. Don't let
It's not
them
about
get-
the numbers, yeah.
Don't let them get to you, man. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Everyone that's watched this far, you're freaking champion. We have our mock draft on Thursday, and we're going to switch it up. So we're not going to do the whole first round just based on what the community has said. We're going to do the Washington's full 7-round mock just for Washington. So if you'd like to make a pick in one of that selection, it's first come, first serve. You can just let us know, everybody. We'd love to be able to help you out with that, get you on the show so you can make the selection. All right, let us know ASAP. We'll see you then, guys. Have a great, safe week at work week. Hope it goes by fast for you, and be safe. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm James from the American season of Love on the Spectrum.
My name, yeah. Oh, no, it's ridiculous. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday, man. Washington football. Woo!
Woo. Bye, guys.
See you, brother. What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.